Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of My LinkedIn Friends. And today I am joined by my very special guest, Kathleen McMorrow of the Communications Optic. Kathleen, how are you?
I'm doing great, Chris. It's great to see you. I see a lot of you lately on Zoom. I see a lot of everybody lately on Zoom.
I know.
But I feel really happy that, all of us have been hanging together and keeping each other strong through a really challenging time. So I'm pretty pumped about the future. You can look at the news one of two ways, and I look for opportunity in everything for my clients.
Awesome. And we were just talking offline. Last time we were doing this virtually together, your cat made a special appearance eating your chili and everything. So
She sure
how's your
did.
cat doing?
Yes. My cat is doing great, pushing 17 years old. And I was, needing to close the door here because I trust she's napping down the hall, but there's something about going live in a Zoom meeting that just says, I got to be there. And when we're doing a little happy hour Zoom, she likes to partake in bar food.
So tell us a little bit about Communications Optic and the work that you're doing.
Sure. Thank you so much. So I'll tell you a little bit about my journey because I started out as somebody who was intending on going to law school. Some personal family circumstances didn't make that possible. So I was that typical liberal arts major who was a very good researcher and writer and didn't know how that translated into the business world. It's called a career and earning money. And along the way, I had dabbled with some broadcast journalism, done an internship, really liked it, but didn't like the idea of how much mobility I would need to move from market to market. So since I loved research and data, I decided to go into market research. And that was a great, shockingly great foundation for public relations, which I didn't even know what that was. And I had never taken a writing course or a communications course, but I was fortunate that some of my writing was recognized in scholarship competitions, and I had gotten a lot of good support for my ability to write. And I really loved getting to the core of an issue and doing more research than the average person to understand what was happening with an issue. How were people perceiving whatever was being put out there by a company, by a brand, by a charitable foundation, a school? And so those became my clients at the market research firm I worked with. But here's the thing. So I would write these studies. I would train our interviewers on how not to lead with bias. I'd gather the information. I'd write reports. And then I'd be in front of my clients and I'd be making recommendations about how they could use this data to improve their performance in the marketplace. And that really wasn't my job. And they said, you'd be really great on this side of the desk, And so I started exploring, what does that mean? And I called a communications professor. I went to TCNJ. I'd never taken a course with him, but I said, I'm an alumna and I'm thinking about a communications career, but I want to blend marketing and I'm trying to figure out where I should land because I'm not happy just being a hunter and gatherer. I really want to do something actionable with messaging. Along the way, I, was looking to show that I was serious and started to pursue my master's in public relations management and, started interviewing and quickly got a job working on pharmaceutical PR, patient recruitment for clinical drug trials. And at the time, they were talking all about the chemical compound and what it does. And I said, nobody cares. Right. And I started trying to tell the stories from the heart. How does this change families' lives? I was working on Alzheimer's disease, pain management drugs, cancer drugs. And I called my doctors in my study all across the country. And, what was great back then is they had all these wonderful cable access shows, and a lot of them were focused on healthcare. And I said, if I
cable access, what is that? No, I'm just
right, exactly. But that was the alternative news market. So
it was, yeah, absolutely.
And I was also doing, in a lot of my markets like Minneapolis and Philadelphia and Cincinnati, I was also making new relationships from New Jersey and New York with the local media there. So I was really hot with the Mary Hansen show. I had about 4 guests on there talking about all those things. There was a little show out of Minneapolis, and my parents would laugh because I was young and I had all these TV producers calling the house on weekends, like, who do you got for me this week? So it was a lot of fun.
What is maybe the one thing that you're telling your clients now that you're talking with them about how they can communicate in this climate, both from, an outward side, to the public and to everybody that they're dealing with, and also internally?
Well, that's a great question. And you know what's extraordinary? I've worked on quite a number of crises in my time, corporate crises, major accidents that get broad global attention. I've worked on some really very serious construction accidents. But the thing about this crisis that's very interesting and that we've never seen before is that no one is unaffected. It has cut across the board in a profound way, and we are all equally vulnerable to this virus. And those of us living in the United States and seeing our social and civil unrest having this ripple effect around the world, you can't be tone deaf to this conversation. So the most
Right.
important thing you can do right now, I think we've all had some inward conversations, and we're all thinking about, I hope, how we lead from a compass of service. How do I help you survive? How do you help me survive? What resources can you bring to the table that might even be beyond the scope of the typical work you do, but others you know? And so I've done a lot of cross promotion with my clients' platforms to advise them to have others come onto their platforms and lead with the whole of their resources to solve the dilemmas related to business shutdown, supply chain shutdown, the confusing landscape around PPP and SBA EDL and all of the new challenges that have come in. And now as we're moving toward reopening, even in a moment where the news is again very concerning, internally, it's your people who are getting you through these tough challenges, and they need to
Right.
feel valued now more than ever. But as people are bringing their flock back to the office, back to normative routines, it's really, really important to focus on value. And in offices, one of the ways we're doing that is with space, in giving people enough space to do their
Right.
job effectively and safely right now is one of the ways to communicate value. Also, if you're operating a public facing business and you open up like business as usual and regulations be damned,
Right.
and especially when there aren't any clear guidance, there's all these requests of what to do. It's leaving business owners in a place of, what do I do? So you really want to communicate that safety comes first, but then there's the deeper conversation about safety. We don't just care if your physical body is okay. We want to make sure that psychologically you're feeling great. And one of the many brands got this really, really right, this conversation. I loved the Doritos commercial. It wasn't about a chip anymore. It was about people. And they
Right.
just stopped, trying to pretend that we were all home eating chips and watching Netflix and having fun, where we were really concerned about our future and our jobs. I mean, thank God there was a little bit of chips and fun because my cat needed the chili. But it's very important that you lead from that compass of service, and that is going to continue to drive the conversation because we're not out of this yet. And leading from a compass of service is also very important. But then where there will be interruptions, where your supply chain may be that you can't provide certain products or services you used to because there's been an international
Right.
breakdown in the supply chain, manage the expectations, make it very clear of what you can and cannot provide, and be very careful. Everybody wants to jump back into business, that if you're going to get into a situation of a contract, that you can honor that contract effectively. Don't say you can, don't communicate that, don't make an announcement you can't back up, because it's going to
Right.
have a really difficult ripple effect to your business.
So with that, I'd love to say thank you so much, Kathleen,
Thank
for
you.
coming on the show today.
This was a
If
lot of fun.
anybody would like to connect with Kathleen and the Communications Optic, you can, of course, connect with her here on LinkedIn, and I'll have all the stuff in the box up top. So I would say, Kathleen, what is the best way? I mean, other than LinkedIn, what's another way that they can
Sure.
reach out to you?
So I'm Kathleen R. McMorrow on LinkedIn. And my office line is 973-665-8167. If I'm out of the office, it bounces to my cell phone. But who are we kidding? We're never we're never away from our desk now
It's true.
because there's nowhere to go. Um, and you can also reach me at KMCMorrow at T as in the, C as in communications, O as in optic, -pr.com.
And I want to thank everybody once again for watching another episode of My LinkedIn Friends. We'll see you guys soon.